I now call this special meeting of the Summers County Board of Education to order. The time is 5:03. The date is October 29th, 2020. Let the minutes reflect that we have four board members present in person. Stan Duncan is present by phone. Mr. Brogan, could you lead us in the invocation and pledge, please?
Great. Father in heaven, thank you for giving us another day. Thank you for your many blessings so wise. Lord, we thank you for these folks that gathered here tonight. Show we're interested in the meeting to follow. Father, we thank you for the staff of Summers County Schools. So diligent in trying to make the greatest times work for you. We're so thankful for each one of them. God, we just pray that you'd be with us through this meeting. Pray that you'd help us to make the best decision for the Summers County system. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, approval of agenda and adjustments. Are there any adjustments that need to be made?
Move we accept the agenda as read.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote, we have approved the agenda. All right, item number 4, presentations. The first person I have down is Jessica Morgan.
Should I come up?
You're ready to go.
Oh, okay. How's this? Everyone here? I feel like this might be kind of out of order because it actually has to do with the consolidations. Would it fit better in the hearing part of the meeting? I just wanted to comment on that part.
Just go ahead.
Just go ahead?
Yep.
Okay. My name's Jessica. I'm a former teacher, special education teacher, and now I work for the West Virginia Education Association. And so I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the many members that we have here in Summers County. And going by the part of the plan that's been available to our employees already, we have looked at it and discussed it together. And there are a few things that we just are all on the same page with from the get-go, and it is that we all want to stand up and help our colleagues and help the county keep everyone's job in place. We understand that the point of a consolidation is to save the county money or resources, but we just want you to consider when you're doing this, that even if it looks like it's saving money on paper, that it could cost in other ways. It could cause large class sizes, and we all can vouch for the fact no one's ever said, oh, hey, I wish my class had more students in it. That would make it so much better. Class sizes, it could also make more prep work or add grades or subject levels, excuse me, but it could add more preps or subject levels to a teacher that might not have taught those for years. They might end up teaching multiple things because you're trying to consolidate and have fewer people in the building. And also, even if it is 7, I believe it was 7 positions, that has the potential for 7 Summers County families to have to move somewhere else because someone's lost a job. And so that's 7 families that live here, spend money here, pay taxes here. So it's something to consider to try to keep all the positions there, use whatever you can, use the additional money that started a couple years ago from House Bill 206 to possibly look at that again and make sure that you're utilizing that the best way you can. And also, in the case that it's unavoidable in losing positions, we ask that you please let them know don't wait till the regular RIF or transfer deadline. Let them know as soon as you can so that they can apply other places, put in for their retirement, or make other kinds of arrangements. But best case scenario, if we can try to find a way to do this so that no one's losing their livelihood. And with that, since that's basically all we really do about the plan, and I'm here to listen tonight more about it, that's all I have for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very much appreciate what you had to say, and I think you will be more than happy to hear what Mr. Willis has to say in
Good, good.
response to that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm trying to move it over a little bit.
You want to put it over to-
Watch, we'll get too close to the microphone. I was afraid that messes up. Is that too close? Okay, next we have Charles Saunders.
First off, I want everybody to know I'm not up here.
Can you put the mic closer to you?
Well, I started
You can
doing
hold it
started-
if you like.
Well, you can hold it.
Oh,
Yeah, we want to make sure everybody hears you.
okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
First off, I want to let everybody know I'm not here to criticize. Well, I better tell you who I am. I'm Charles Saunders. I'm your county commissioner, one of them. And my whole life I've been around education. I was raised by an educator. And I don't want you to think I'm here to criticize the board. I know what problems they've had. I've seen them my whole life. But I think everybody needs to understand where all this started from. It didn't start from a local level. It started from a state level. And the problems we have today, like any other, like the county, the city, the board, is about money. And the money that has been taken away from this county has come from the state level. Now, we're gonna have figures in here about student population drop. And yes, it has happened. But the thing about it is, it's not as broad as this will show you, because you have so many kids that the state has allowed to go to schools outside the county. Now, I'm not sure about the exact figure. You can tell us what that is per student that the state gives the county? 6,000?
Approximately.
All right. Now, everybody said, well, you consolidate, then you can use less buses and everything. But I know for a fact that there's buses going on the same route from other counties in Summers County that the Summers County buses go on. So this has been a continuing problem for the county. So what I think we ought to do is ask the state for help, because they're the one that created these. Over the years, we've had, as the years has gone by, we have not had the money that we would have had. Because of the state allowing kids to cross the county line, allowing other counties to bring in their buses so they can save their schools and not worry about Summers County schools. And that has caused schools like Pipestem and Sandstone to disappear. I could go on and on about that, but that's enough. I just think the state we need to talk to the state about this, because it's not only gonna hurt the kids, it's gonna hurt the city of Hinton, it's gonna hurt Summers County. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the presentations I have. All right, item number 5, public hearing concerning reassignment of Summers Middle School students to Summers County High School.
Okay, most of you already know who I am in this room, but for you who are watching out on YouTube, my name is Mr. David Warble, the Superintendent of Summers County Schools. I'm going to go over a PowerPoint presentation. You should have been able to get a copy of that as you walked in the door. Is there anybody in this room that doesn't have one? I'll get you one. You don't have to go get it. Okay, we're good? Okay, I'm going to go through this PowerPoint. I'm going to try to answer questions that were presented by our 2 presenters tonight, and try to make it so you can follow along with me. If stuff's small print, that's why you have a handout to go over the small print. The first slide is data about our school system. This is our enrollment the past 10 years. This is current enrollment this school year. We have to do an October count. We did an October count this month, and you can see over here on the right-hand side, we have 1,393 students. 10 years ago, we had 1,551. As you look at the data going across, I tried to make it user-friendly to follow along with the color coding. If you see a few years there, we did have 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade as a middle school at one point in time. We did that 1 year with Jumping Branch and Tulkit. So if you look at Jumping Branch at the top, it has 92 students. But it went back up the following year. That's because the 5th grade came back to the elementaries. But Hinton Area Elementary, you can see the color, where it was 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for those years. I don't know why it was 1 year for that point in time, but that's just the facts and the history of the school system. You can see we've dropped quite a few students from 1551 to 1393. I took an average. I went conservative. I did $5,000 a student to help with this as we move forward. Right now, the state does stop at 1,400. So a Pocahontas, a Summers County, if you go below 1,400, you're still funded for 1,400. Okay? So that's the cap at this point in time. So since we went below 1,400 this school year, we'll still get the money from the state for 1,400, as if we had 1,400 students, okay? That's where we're at this point in time. The Summers County data, I just wanted everybody to know the age of each school system. So the current middle school, 1925, is the oldest school in the county, and you can go chronologically until you get to VOTEC. I put that one in there because that is attached to the high school, but I wanted people to know that for information. And you can see Talcott Elementary is our newest school in 2009. I also wanted everybody to see the demographics of the consensus data for 2010 and 2019. I couldn't get 2020. They're still counting people. But at this point in time, we have lost some people in this county. We're having more death rates or people moving away rates than we do birth rates at this point in time. High school facility that we're currently in, we have to talk about that tonight because it's going to be affected if the board approves to move the students over here full-time from the middle school to the high school. This is according to SBA. You can see in the top right-hand corner, I put SBA as the source. They have said that this building's program utilization is 953 students. Right now, our current enrollment for our high school is 429. You divide that, that gives you a percentage of 45% utilization at this building. That's what the utilization is. And as you go down, you can see how many classrooms that were built at the time for this facility and how many students you can house in each classroom. School Building Authority projected cost. This is continuation of the high school. This year, the high school was able to get a brand new HVAC system costing $4.1 million. The good news, we came under budget by about $200,000, roughly, around $180,000, somewhere around there. But you can see SBA funded it 100%. No local tax dollars were used, or nobody had a raise in their taxes to make that happen. This came from the School Building Authority. That was funded here in this building. As you look down through here, we had to do a projected cost with School Building Authority. What will need to be worked on? Everything in this room, including humans, has a life expectancy. The carpet, the chairs, the walls, the paint, all of us have a life expectancy. And you can see what they're saying that has to be done. Now, we can mitigate those losses if we take care of our property, which that's the good news. The bad news is you can see there's some things on there SBA does not fund, like a security system. That needs to be up there so people understand that. But the projected cost in the next 10 years to keep this facility looking nice and functional is around $7.5 million. Okay? Middle school. We'll be talking about this at our other meeting tonight, the middle school, because it affects the middle school. But I figured both meetings need to have both information for people to understand this. Utilization for the middle school is 699 students. You can see our current enrollment, 337. If you divide that, you get about 48% utilization at that facility. You can see the building, what its capabilities are, and how many students can be in each room. Again, the source is the School Building Authority. This is the projected cost for this building. The most recent one we have from ZMM, at first, the School Building Authority just does projected cost. But we have a roof leak problem at the middle school. Some people refer it to as the swimming pool above the school. It does hold water and then eventually leaks down the walls and through the ceiling. Right now, from ZMM Architects, this is their projected cost to fix it. $792,000 and some change to fix that roof. If you go down the right-hand side, you can see what the projected costs are for that facility, according to the School Building Authority. Now, the most recent one is ZMM because they actually gave us a quote for that one. We're going to talk about the finances of both facilities since we're talking about the high school and the junior high. I know this is small print, but for you all, anything in yellow is our projected savings. So when you go to the next slide, everything in yellow is on the next page. And so I'm going to pull that up so you can see it better, because I wouldn't want to look from the audience and say, what's that tiny stuff there? Our utility bills are on the left-hand side. You can see what the projected savings. Lauren did a good job of crunching numbers to go conservative with these savings. They're actually a little bit higher, but in some cases they're a little bit lower. So it's always better to go conservative and go rounding down and not up, because there are certain years where you do use more utilities than others. But as you go down through there, the projected savings is around $115,000 for not keeping that building going. It's a pretty good sized building. Personnel. I think I'll address this with Ms. Morgan. I think she'll appreciate some of the stuff I have on the next slide. 30 days ago, I talked to the teachers in the gymnasium. Give or take 30 days ago, maybe it was this last week. With COVID, everything's a Groundhog Day anymore. But on a serious note, we are absorbing 8 professional teachers. We have teachers who have retired. We have teachers who have left. Those teachers will not hurt their livelihood because we're not cutting anybody. They've left either through retirement or to find a job somewhere else. This is real data with 8 absorptions. Now, There's 2 of them that are not part of this facility or the middle school, but I have to include them because it's the county. Those 2 are Jumping Branch and Talcott. Talcott has a teacher who is retiring, and we won't replace that position. Jumping Branch has a teacher who has already accepted a job in another county, but I'm not releasing that person until next school year. Not that I'm a bad guy, but I have to focus on my students, and I don't have to release them. But I agree that you can work there next school year. That makes sense. So that's another absorption we can handle. These are all projected costs right now.
Because of loss of students, you're able to reduce these? Or?
Going down to the next one, reduction in force. I have 1 person that we're looking at reduction in force, and that's a service personnel. When I came in here, the first thing I found out, there was 7 to 10 people that we were over the limit for state funding. This county, this size, has 7 to 10 people too many. So we need to get that number down regardless of consolidation. So take consolidation off the table. We have to absorb these positions. We are in a deficit spending right now, and as taxpayers, you cannot make this an employment agency or a welfare system. People cannot get paid if we're not bringing in money. You can't spend in deficit spending. So what we're doing is absorbing positions regardless of consolidation, but part of the CEFP plan, the next 10 years, you have to talk about that cost, okay? The next 2, we have 2 positions that I talked about a month ago that were in the first category. They were in that category. We were able to take them out because as a county, we can move to a Title I county, and that means those 2 people can be funded with title money. What does that mean? That means federally funded money coming into our county can be used to pay those 2 people. And so we can do that. And then the total at the bottom shows you how much savings we'll have, around $650,000 in savings on cost at this point in time. I'll answer your question at the end. Maintenance. It's hard to see here, but this is 17, 18, 19, and 20 projections. If you go to the next page, on that page, you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, it's around $111,000 that we're looking at saving with not having another building to take care of that size. Transportation, talking to Mr. Boone, there's no change. It's the same. There's no change. Same amount of people, same amount of buses, same driving. It's the same pattern. The only change that'll be is if we move forward and have a gym over there, a gym over here, we'll have a gym in Hinton. We can get practices done a lot quicker for our students to get home a lot earlier in the evening. That would only be the change, is dropping kids off for practice. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. And then the last part that we have to talk about with money, before we talk about education, is the projected cost for the addition. According to McKinley & Associates, they're a firm that put this together. This doesn't mean we go with that firm, but by state code, we have to have someone give us projections. They were willing to do it. Their projection is 15 classrooms, a gym, and a cafeteria that would be added on this side of the facility. So it's my left, your right. I'm not sure where east, west, north, south is right now, but over here in this section. So we have middle school on this side of the facility, high school on that side. You see renovations. We'd have to do a safe school entrance and be able to divide offices up in a way that separates our kids out. So that's what that projection is for them. So that $9.2 million would be school building authority funded. They would fund that. Now I have to talk about what we're here for, educating our students. Students have to be educated, and we have to follow 2 policies all the time. Policy 2510, that's the traditional student with their education, and then if you're a special ed student, you still do 2510, but you've got some accommodations through an IEP or a 504, and that policy is 2419. You can see grade 6, what they need to get while they're in the middle school. Grade 7, it changes a little bit. They can have world language, and our kids do take Spanish virtually right now. And when you get to 8th grade, if you are a little bit better at math than the average student in your class, you can take high school credit for math, and so that's why that's in black, to show you could take a Math 1 or Algebra class as an 8th grader. The only thing I can tell people is, if your son or daughter goes into a high school credit in junior high, be careful, because I'm not saying don't do it, but it is counted towards your GPA, and it is a high school credit. So we have to watch that as they move forward. But you can see what we're dealing with our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Now, we have a 6 through 12 slide here, and I'm going to go back one more where I just was. On this, you see 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, career exploration. Those are CTE. By law, next summer, we need to add career exploration to our middle school. That would be a natural fit for this facility if you have 6 through 12. We already have CTE here. So we could do an exploration or an elective for our students to have CTE as well, because they're already here. Wouldn't have to do anything different, except one big one. And our counselors would say, yeah, it's a big one. Scheduling. It could be a scheduling nightmare. I get that. I totally get that. The next slide deals with our 9 through 12. I tried to make this as user-friendly as possible, but if you're a kid entering into high school, you are going to have 22 credits to graduate. So the class of 22 and beyond has to get 22 credits to graduate. Out of those 22 credits, you need 18 credits that are prescribed, meaning the core stuff. You'll need the others for your electives, and those are on there as well to see what you need. But you can go through there and see what classes that you can take. If you're thinking about going to college, you really need to take a world language. We offer Spanish, so I would say take at least 2 years of Spanish. If you don't go to college, well, you got 2 years of an elective. At least you need to try to take it, because you can't go back once you graduate. That's just how it works. So right there is our schedule for 4 years for students. And at the bottom left, you can see AP and dual credit also fits into that schedule as well. 9 through 12, we have to follow 2510, and basically that's saying that you need all those classes, what I just talked about, to graduate while you're in school. I'm done with that, but do I have any questions from the board? And then we'll go from there. And I don't know if Stan does either.
Stan, do you have any questions?
Not really. I've looked at all this several times over the last several months, and I see and believe that what he's depicting is a real clear picture, and I see it not something that anybody here necessarily wants to do. It's something we feel compelled to do because of the exorbitant cost of money, which we don't have, to repair the building up in town. And in my talking with people from SBA and other people, be very, very difficult. In fact, impossible, I think, for the SBA to ever give us money to put in a 95-year-old building, because it's just a huge amount of money and repairs that need to be done, and that's unfortunate. Other than that, no, I don't have any questions, Superintendent Worrell.
You had one, right?
In the estimation on the reduction of workforce, what were those positions? What teachers were being eliminated, what classes? I mean, I guess as the student population dropped that much, that we can afford to reduce the workforce that much?
Let me go back to that slide so you can see it. Okay, this is more for people on YouTube right now so they can see what we're talking about. Those absorptions are people who are currently retired. So we've had, for example, a PE teacher retire. We've had a social studies teacher leave and go to those are the ones off the top of my head. But a lot of those are teaching positions, yes. And right now, we are over the limit of funding for the teachers we have. Now, we could fund those positions if you had like an excess levy. But since there's no excess money, we have to get back down to the number that's projected for a county our size. That's why we need to absorb that, regardless of consolidation.
So the question is then, what classes, are we losing something that's important for?
No, we'll just have to schedule it. I've been working the last 3 weeks on a schedule for 6-12 and looking at the schedules for the elementary. That's been consuming me the last 3 weeks. I've been crunching numbers and trying to make that work where we don't have too many kids in a classroom. You like to keep it around 20, but elementary is different than high school and middle school with the calculation of how many can be in a classroom.
Has the board discussed a plan on what they're going to do with the middle school once it's vacated?
You want me to give that to you?
That decision hasn't been made yet, so we'll have to discuss that when the time comes.
We really haven't decided what we'll do, even if we'll close it or not. And if we decide that, I think we're just taking a guess at what we'll do with it. Once we decide whether we close it or not, then we'll have to make a decision on what to do with it.
You're still planning on using the gymnasium?
We will keep the gymnasium and the cafeteria,
Long term?
long term.
Can the city use it?
Have you reached out to any of your higher education facilities around here?
We haven't, because we haven't decided yet what we'll do with it, whether we're gonna close it or repair it.
Well, I have. And there are a number of them interested in participating with us to perhaps use that facility to provide higher education.
Hold on just a second.
Go ahead.
Can you use the mic because
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Interestingly, I was at a dedication where the governor gave Bluefield State a tremendous amount of money to expand, and they're expanding their footprint in West Virginia. They're actually adding athletics. That's a pretty cool thing, and I'm excited about that. And in that conversation today, the governor's office was represented. I threw that out at the president, and they jumped all over it, their development office. I know we already have entry-level classes and stuff, and they already have some collaborations. But if we could get them physically here, and perhaps New River to offer some adult vocational classes, we could repurpose that building. And I think the state, maybe not the SBA, would potentially be a funding source for that. And I know you all own the property, and it's up to you all ultimately to decide what happens with it. But as soon as you make that decision, please let us know, because we might be interested in taking the property from you in order to be able to negotiate to get someone else to be able to do something with it. But I think the gymnasium would need to go with the property and everything as well. So that's something that's still be available for a few years.
You know, if we do decide to close it, there'd be a lot of money probably for somebody else to get in grants and stuff that the school won't qualify for. So that would be a good possibility.
Well, did you see what the Oakville High School recently did? And just designated as historic, but it had already been redeveloped and repurposed, and we're renting it out to local organizations and stuff. So that helps us too. We've got to keep that property and use it for something, because that's a really big hole to have in the middle of town. And I'm no professional to get involved with the decisions you're making regarding consolidation. But I do know, and I mentioned this to you, Barry Priest is a friend of yours, and you believe in him. The small school environment and that low student-teacher ratio is a real benefit 7th through 12th in him many years ago. And it was kind of cool, you know, we were able to go out of town, open campus and stuff, but those youngsters are exposed to a whole lot more at that age than they are being separated in middle school. And so that's my biggest concern really is, you know, how can we integrate them together with our older kids without sacrificing their opportunity in education?
I can answer that. This model of 612 or 712, we've already had some staff go to Webster County to see what they did with their 712 model. I've been part of that in my past 22 years. I think the biggest thing is to keep them separated when they come into facilities and give them that side of the facility, if you're under one roof is what I'm saying, and keep them on that side. Right now we have pre-K students in here and they get on the bus together. These kids are all around each other. I don't disagree with that. I'm not gonna say, in a perfect world, yeah, it'd be nice if they didn't pick up cuss words and bad stuff and all that. But on a serious note, we do have to look at a programmatic level of a 612 facility with not only the traditional setting, but also CTE. I know the governor's gonna have some money for aerospace. I'd like to look at that and Project Lead the Way with pre-engineering and biomedical. And in the evening, I would like to provide adult education for those CTE programs. We have a lot we can offer here. And what you're talking about with that university that I saw, I didn't even know they didn't have a dorm there. So they are doing the right
They
thing.
broke ground on one, the governor gave them the money for it, and he's very involved down there. That community's really rallying around that. Concord has its place, and we've always had a good relationship with them, but I don't believe they're working hard to expand their footprint.
I don't know, yeah.
But New River has, they're in Lewisburg and a lot of other places. And I think vocational education is really important for us to be able to offer to the 50 or 60 or 70% of our students that will never seek higher education.
We're following that, yes. We're gonna go down that road.
But please work with us in this. I think this is really important to our entire community, not just the school system and what we decide to do. And that's why I suggested we think big in this. There's money out there. We have connections with our current state government. Let's maximize that. Ray Carey, who works for Governor Justice, graduated from Mint High School, and he very much does care about what's going on down here. And let's leverage our relationships and see if we can't, you know, turn this into lemonade instead of looking at it as a negative. Higher technology is going to revamp our community. The state has a huge initiative to lure younger folks here to be able to work remotely. COVID's kind of put that opportunity on steroids for us. And having that higher tech facility there in combination with the city's high tech facility could be a real, and they've been here to look at and survey and actually took them to the school already. That's something that could be repurposed for education and or for lodging as well. So as soon as you folks decide this is what you want to do, I think it's important for us to work together as a community to find a purpose for that building and not just live in the city.
Did WVEA, did you have any other, did that help answer some of your questions when you asked earlier?
Not all of them. I'll be honest, one of the concerns was that the jobs that maybe people have left or retired or resigned that are not filled right now.
They are filled.
That,
with the long-term sub.
right, but what I'm saying is, so those positions would still be gone, even though the people who have jobs would still keep their jobs, but that still would distribute those students and create larger class sizes.
No, it wouldn't. You ought to see my schedule come up, and I gotta talk to my principals and my counselors to see that. I'll show you guys that, but right now, I've been dealing with COVID and trying to get this put together and working with the schedule. I promise you, the numbers aren't gonna go up near as high as people think they are. Because you have to use real data with real people and real kids.
What is the maximum level in the middle school and high school?
Well, you're looking at 25,
25.
but I don't wanna hit that number if I can stay away from it.
At both middle school and high school?
Yes,
Is elementary different?
yes.
What is it?
I'm not sure exactly what their numbers are. It's 18 to 20 for them. it's closer to be the lower number.
And we're pretty well, we're within those numbers?
Yes,
already?
yes. Well, yeah, easily. We have too many staff right now. According to the state level, which they're the ones who provide the money, people have to understand, you can't spend deficit spending. This county is spending deficit spending right now. And these are ways to absorb those costs without hurting anybody's livelihoods.
Unless we pass an excess levy.
Well, I think the last time a levy was passed was, a lot of people in this room weren't even born. And I can tell you it's in the 70s. That's a long time ago for a levy, and I don't think people really want to pass a levy right now.
That's when the state started allowing kids to cross the county line.
I don't disagree. But you have to know your competition, and that's why I don't want to shut down Jumping Branch Elementary. Before I got the job, that was part of the CEFP, possibly closing down Jumping Branch. You close down Jumping Branch, they go to Shady. You just helped the enrollment of Raleigh County. Right now, Fayette County has a regional high school being built, pre-K through 12. Pre-K through 12 is going to be under one roof over there. That'll pull from Nicholas, Fayette, Summers, and Greenbrier counties. So we have to compete against the blurred lines now, so to speak.
And the state says now we don't have to give permission to go.
Correct.
Stan? Were you
That's
able
why I
to-
said earlier, you need to ask the state to help us out.
They're not. We've asked. The only way they'll help us is through the school building authority.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Superintendent Warble, I hear the issue of being over the state aid formula, and then the issue of consolidation and closing the building on Temple Street. It is true, is it not, that our being over the state aid formula and therefore having to pay salaries out of county money, that's a problem that is not being created by the fact that we're considering consolidation. Is that correct?
Correct. We're not, that's not part of the consolidation, but yes, what you're saying is true, that we're over and we need to adjust.
Were you able to hear him?
Could you hear me?
Yes, he said you are correct, that is not an issue caused by the consolidation. That's a state formula.
Okay. And the fact that we are considering this move has nothing to do with state aid formula, but the fact that we're considering this move is due to the extremely poor condition of the building which has been housed in Summers Middle School. Is that correct?
Yes.
He says, yes, that is correct.
And the cost for bringing that building up to compliance, ADA, and safety, and health, and everything, is an exorbitant figure that we do not have the money for in the county from any source. Is that also correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
So, as reluctant and as disheartening as it is to close down a building which many people in that room attended, and one that I have a history back going to 1973 when I did my student teaching, is a difficult thing to do. But if we had plenty of money, which we don't, we wouldn't be having to do this. And so, is it not true, in your opinion, what we have done by moving the children and staff down there is we're doing that to protect them, put them in the safest, are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah.
And to put them in the safest environment, not only our kids, but our personnel, something that our hands are tied on, we didn't have a choice. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, because on day 2 of my job, I walked in that building with Susie, and if I don't want my kids in there, I can't put other people's kids in there. I don't feel good about that at all.
I worked in that building before. I would not want to go work in that building, nor would I want my children or grandchildren to go in it. And again, as reluctant as we would be, and as disheartening as it is, it comes down to a matter of finances, millions of dollars we don't have, and you compare that also to the safety and health of our students and all of our staff, and we had no choice. And going forward, are we going to have problems, growing pains? Yes, we are. But they will come as a result of the fact that we've had no choice but do what we're doing. And in my opinion, we do this, or the way I see it, and then we go forward in search of the funding from the SBA to make sure that we have plenty of room, and we have our students and personnel in a healthy and safe building at the complex down there. So, if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to entertain them, but that's just, in listening to your presentation and working with you on this, and with the many visits we've had from people from the State Department, that's the conclusion that I came up with, and it's one that you came up with second day on the job after looking at it. So that's all that I really have to say about it, unless somebody has a specific question.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Duncan?
I have two questions real quick.
Can you come up and get the mic? Can you come up front?
So in unicorn world,
Mr. Franklin,
I'm sorry.
I need you up there.
Oh, I gotta go here.
You're fine, as long as he can see it.
Okay.
Can you see it?
In unicorn world, what I'm trying to bring up here is, the kind of feeling I'm getting is, and I'm not on one side or the other, is that even if we did have the funds, all of a sudden somebody walked in and said, you know, I'm gonna cut you a check for $12 million to fix the middle school. That's probably not something we want to do because of the CT and the other stuff. We would be, am I correct on that? And the same SBA offer was on the table. We can add $9 million to put you over here, or somebody cut you a check and repair the entire middle school, get it up and stuff and everything else. The decision still basically would be made. It would be better to bring the kids here. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I can't go hypothetical, because
No, I'm just saying.
12 million's not gonna touch that.
Right.
What you're looking at, the replacement cost on that facility is close to 30 million. Now, that's not that's again, SBA numbers. I don't know how they come up with their numbers, but you're talking, to replace that building would be around 30 million. But to get it up to ADA compliant, and there's no sprinkler system in there, you gotta get it up to 2021 code. That's a lot of unknowns at this point in time, and I can't answer that question. I don't know.
Well, I'm just trying to get the overall feel of the board.
Gotcha.
Okay, and just so that everybody out there understands, it's not truly a money issue of going to the middle school. If the two were right side by side, you would still probably, because of other issues and everything else, you'd rather just bring them on over here. Is that basically what my understanding is?
Are
That's
you
not
asking
my
me or the board?
Oh, the board.
That's not my understanding.
Okay. Well,
As far as
that's-
I'm concerned, we work for you guys. That would be the will of the people,
All right, and
if,
the other,
if we got that magic check.
okay. Well, that's what I'm saying. The other thing is,
Yeah.
the projected savings on the utilities won't really take place unless we unload the building.
Well-
And then we will have the extra cost when we come over here.
Not true right now.
Not true right now.
Lauren, could you help answer that a little bit? Because I know it's putting you on the spot, but right now, it's like when nobody's in a house, you're just heating and air at the minimum level, and there's nobody
So
using
that
it.
takes us into account. is the
That
load levels.
helps with that load. Is that answering the question correctly, Lauren? I know bean counters don't like it when I round up or down. Sorry, they just don't.
Now, but with the projected savings here, when we add on over here, and the increased cost of electricity and everything, will that, what I'm trying to find is how much actual at the end, when everything's done in 10 years, 5 years, whatever the time is, how much projected savings will it really be, or will it be a wash from the new school to the old school? That's all the question I have.
Well, I hate to pull stuff off the top of my head, but I gotta find it here. The projected savings, because you do have to have utilities here. You're right. You can't just say it's a wash completely, but to do a conservative estimation with people, utilities, and maintenance, that's around $6.2 million in the next 10 years. you're adding every year. That's a ballpark figure. Again, it's like when you predict for kids. Some kids get $8,000 to $10,000 to educate, but we just go the lowest number at $5,000 because it's better to be conservative than too liberal with your guesstimations, because I don't want to put too much of a spin on it's going to be this much when it's better to go conservative. Now, if anybody goes to build a house in this room or an addition or buy a car, yeah, you overestimate because you know it's better to go that route. But when you're dealing taxpayer dollars and you're really looking at the future, you need to be more conservative because you really don't know all those projected costs, if that answers your question.
I would like to respond to the question asking about the board's preference. I have a child who's in 4th grade, so this affects me directly. I have a niece who is currently at the middle school, another that goes next year, and I have another niece in pre-K. So this affects me personally 4 times over. I have seen a lot of things said on Facebook about the location of the high school and not liking to have the middle school with the high school. In a perfect world, I wouldn't want the high school here, and I wouldn't want my kid this close to the railroad. But there comes a time when we have to deal with what we have. And what we have to work with is a school located here. Would I like my son to go to the middle school? If it was the middle school that I went to, it would still be nice because that was 30 years ago and there was still asbestos.
Don't put a number on it, what was age?
But I would not want him in it, nor my nieces, in the condition that it is in now. My mother subbed at that building for 2 years. And it sickens me to know what she breathed in that time period. My niece went to that school for a year, and it scares me to know what she breathed in. So, in a perfect world, I'd love to have a facility that encompassed everyone and was in a safer location. But that's not what we have. So we have to try to give our kids the very best of what we have to offer. That's the best I can answer you there.
Mr. Franklin, you're allowed more than 2 questions. I know I joke with you all the time about that. Go ahead.
Thank you.
If nobody else, I'll turn it back to you guys. I just want to make sure people have information.
We move to item number 6, discussion and/or action concerning reassignment of students.
Can you read that on the mic?
You need a mic, sir? Testing. Testing.
Okay, item number 6, discussion and/or action concerning reassignment of students. You sort of already had that. That's what you sort of already had.
Much of the presentation of the superintendent, of what you brought up by members, addresses that, due to the fact that, just did not see any other alternative. No magic wand to wave,
there's nothing further. Mr. Angel?
That's 5:58.
Okay. Is that your motion? Okay, we make a motion. Mr. Angels made a motion that we adjourn. The time is 5:58.